Hey guys, what's going on? This is Nick here with Spark Gap Garage. Today I am working on my 2008 Chrysler 300C, aka Midnight Special. Today we are going to be installing a Evil Energy oil cooler, because if you've seen my previous video where I raced at Blackhawk Raceway, temperatures got up to about 270 degrees, and that's pretty damn hot. We don't want that. We need to kind of control that a little bit. So hopefully this kit right here, don't mind the mess, my in-laws are moving out, long story. Anyway, so hopefully this kit here will help with that. Okay everyone, so this is the Evil Energy oil cooler kit. This is an entire kit laid out. You have your cooler right here. Basically, oil flows through, circulates all the way through here, hot oil in, and then by the time it gets out here, it won't be like cold, but it would be colder enough than the oil temperature coming, or the temperature of the oil coming in. Follow along. You have your AN lines, these guys right here, your return and to and from, basically lines going from here to and from, anyway. So you have that going on. It's a very easy kit. This just binds these two hoses together to keep them from moving around. I don't know if exactly I'll be using this, but it's a nice thing to have. Like I said, the filter adapter right here, you have the male threaded end, just like how you would install it in your car, is what threads in here, and then this female end with the threads inside is what threads onto where your normal oil filter goes up onto. So it's really cool. Basically, that's it. You have some bracketry I might use. I may or may not. I don't know yet. This is probably going to be one of those things where you got to get a little custom with it. So just kind of walking through the game plan. Just like any normal oil change that you're going to do, you're going to get your car up on the jack stands. I really only lift up the front ends, and more specifically the passenger front steer tire. Get that up higher, and then that way I can crawl in there. But what I'll probably end up doing is get the front axle up, jack stands up, that way I can get underneath there pretty comfortably. And then also I'm going to be removing this front bumper, that way I can figure out exactly where I want to mount this this cooler onto. That way, not only would it get maximum airflow to go through these fins here, because the airflow will go through here, and that's actually what cools this down. It's not like coolant or anything. So the airflow is what actually cools the oil down. Now, something else I'm going to be adding on later, or maybe depending on how well this goes, I might actually add a electric fan, small little fan to the middle here, make my brackets and stuff, with a little toggle switch right near the steering wheel. That way, if the oil temperature seems to climb up even while I'm racing, I can kick that fan on and help it cool down even more. Key thing, definitely a key thing, and I'll touch on this later, you do not, and I repeat this, do not want to mount anything like this where it's going to obstruct a lot of airflow to your cooling system. What I mean by that is your radiator. If you do that, your car overheats, and that's not good. So I'll touch a little bit more on that when I can't speak, when I get the bumper and stuff off. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and cut to where I got the car up on jack stands. Okay, so instead of doing jack stands, I ended up using my car ramps to get the car lifted up. Make sure you block your wheels. Doesn't matter if you're lifting your car up with a jack or whatever, to put ramps or jacks under. Always block a wheel, even if you have parking brakes applied. Always do that, safety first. Now, to get this front bumper off, you're gonna have a series of these push pins, trim pins, whatever you want to call them, holding this plastic lining in, the wheel well liner, to here. You're also probably going to have some form, I don't know if you probably can't see that. There it is. It's a really shitty view. There it is. Okay, there's like a 10 millimeter rusted out bolt that I have, but on each corner here going up, that connects. It's a bolt that connects your bumper to your fender. Anyway, so you're gonna have those. Underneath, you have your skid plastic or whatever you want to call it. You're gonna have a series of, I believe, either 10 millimeter or 8 millimeter bolts that run the length of the skid plate to bumper something dark side. Anyway, once you get up here, it's a little different. You'll have a series of more push pins here, this guy, right there, right here, and right here. These 4 will come out, and then the same exact thing on this side. You'll have a 10 millimeter bolt going right here on the inside. You'll, I'm sure you see it, and then you'll have your 2 push pins, and then you can kind of see the holes there and there, but you'll get the idea once you go underneath. Once you do that, the bumper assembly will kind of work its way off, and then you're gonna have a bunch of sensors and shit attached to it. Just leave them plugged in, put the bumper off to the side, and then yeah. So now that you got that this bumper off, now is the fun part. I'm starting to kind of mock up where exactly I want to mount this peg. Now you got this hunk of steel, which is, it's steel, it's your bumper. Then you also have this thinner steel that your radiator, it's basically your radiator bracket. It surrounds your radiator on all sides. And if you notice, this is kind of like a C-channel. It's like C-shaped steel. It's not really thin, it's not too light. So what I'm thinking is on the middle, so you have the radiator, you have your power steering cooler right here. So what I'm thinking is somehow making brackets, let's not dent that up, making brackets that will mount the, let me scoot back, mount the cooler in such a way where it doesn't restrict airflow going into your radiator here for your coolant, because that would be bad. That would make your car run a little hotter. Now I won't have that issue because I'm running some additive and stuff like that, and that's a different thing. Anyway, you don't want to block your radiator or your power steering cooler. Now, if you also have a trans cooler, that's another factor. And if you imagine you layer up, you see how this is in front of part of the radiator. If you layer another layer in front of that, there's a lot of restriction of airflow through these fins, and there's a lot of heat being generated or being removed. And that's how these cool down your oil and stuff, or coolant, or you get the idea. Anyway, so you don't want to do essentially this. You know, stack it, and that wouldn't be good. So that's kind of the challenge at this point, is just kind of play around, mock it up real fast. And what I'm personally thinking is something like this. Now hear me out. I will make brackets that'll connect, see if I can multitask. You can see those holes, a bracket that connects the cooler to this bumper, and then down here as well, another set of holes there to here. So I'm gonna make some like brackets that'll mount. Then the reason I'm thinking that is because on certain models, like these C's, these Hemi C's, you have the vent down there. And I believe that will shoot or direct the air directly up into this cooler, which will help. Now, I don't think it'll restrict as much airflow as I think it would up here. Plus, I'm kind of thinking, you know, it's kind of tucked out of the way, and it'll be in a safe spot. So that's kind of what I'm thinking at this point. And when I kind of finalize my mind, then I'll bring you back, and then we'll get into the oil change, which you're gonna have to do unless you're just literally taking your oil filter down, installing the kit, and then running with it. But I recommend doing an oil change since you're already going this far. All right, guys. Okay, guys, so this is basically how the system will look when it's fully installed into your car, but I just wanted to assemble it real fast out on a makeshift table, but you get the point. Anyway, this is how it's gonna look pretty much set up. You have your oil cooler. I'm using this for my engine oil. You have your AN lines with your AN fittings, and you're gonna tighten them down really tight. Same thing over here. You have these, basically what I imagine these are for is like a temperature sensor or something like along those lines, a pressure sensor, temperature sensor, whatever you might want to add, but those are threaded. I'm not going to do that because my car already reads that. Anyway, so then you have two sides to this, one with a gasket or an O-ring. The other side is a smooth. The side that is smooth is going to have, is where you want facing down, so your oil filter threads on, and that way your gasket, your oil filter gasket, makes a nice seal around that. So that's pretty much it. These are some basic tools that you'll need. Now, your project is gonna be slightly different than mine. Tools are gonna vary. So basic tools as far as wrenches, getting all this tightened up. What I recommend doing is, like I said, mocking it up. Maybe even once you figure out where you want your cooler, get your oil drained, your oil filter down or removed, and just kind of dry fit this. Basically what that means is mock it up how you think, and then just play around with it, and then if it looks good, then shoot, just go ahead and install it. Now for these filters, I just called it a filter, for these coolers, excuse me, you want to pre-fill this, and what that means is don't just assemble this into the car, fill up your engine full of oil to where it shows full on the dipsticks without, you know, taking into account this, because this is probably another 2-3 quarts of oil. And let's say your engine, like mine, calls for, I believe, 8 quarts of oil. You put 8 quarts of oil in without filling this, this system is now technically a, let's call it 10, and even 10 quarts. You just ran your engine down 2 quarts of oil, because all that oil is going to flow into here, and all this air has got to go somewhere, so it's going to go in your oil pan. Okay guys, so this might be a little hard to video, but I want to show you basically how to do a quick oil change. So on these Chrysler 300s, on the passenger side, you can see the oil filter right up there, or right there. There's different ways to get to it. You got oil filter wrench, or I actually have a kit with these style wrenches. Different ways to do it, but once you get your oil draining right here, here is your oil pan. There's a 13mm bolt here. You might have to take down some of the shielding and stuff, but I've already removed mine like a couple of years ago when it fell off. Anyway, so 13mm bolts, you're gonna crack that loose, get that draining, and then while that's draining, you can go ahead and remove your oil filter, which I got mine loose. Mine was stuck on there pretty good, which is why I had to use this instead of that. This guy right there. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do for this oil cooler to kind of help it not leak, to prevent any leaks, I should say. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, so if you decide to do this on a windy day like I currently am, you'll make a mess, but ignore the mess for now. With the drain plug for the oil pan, you want to take a look at your O-ring or gasket. Mine's orange. Any tears in it, thread, like if the threads are junked, I would take a better look at, you know, if there's something going on with the oil pan. What I mean by that is like the threads, if the threads are messed up. You might need to replace this if like the O-ring or gasket's bad, because the O-ring is what seals, and then you also don't want a loose oil pan bolt. But I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this because all my oil is draining. Now I know that looks like clean oil. I do my oil changes on my race car here after each, pretty much each other autocross race, or after each high-speed autocross or high HB HPDE race. So like the Memorial Day race that I just did. So this is that oil change after. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and install this. I can't for the life of me remember the torque spec of this. So I would just look it up, guys. I just snug mine down pretty good and I've never had it leak, but use your discretion. And like I said, I'm not liable for any of this. But anyway, just tighten it down or torque it down to whatever you guys find or yeah, comfortable with. So then up here, you can see where the oil filter would go. That's where that adapter plate's gonna thread onto. You can see the part where the oil filter threads on. That's where that adapter, male and female end, that'll screw on. And I'll show you guys how to do this. But what I wanted to point out is where the oil filter O-ring seals on. So this mating surface, no rust. You don't want any rust, dirt, debris, or anything, because that'll compromise the seal on that, and then you'll just be pissing out oil, and you don't want that, or leaking oil. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump over to the table here and show you what I'm doing as far as preventing the cooling system from leaking, and we'll get into it now. Okay guys, so over here on this oil cooling kit, basically I'm taking this apart. The yellow tape you are seeing is this pipe tape. Now what that's going to do is seal up these threads, so as you tighten this down, it's going to take up any gaps and stuff. So for these guys, they'll go in here, and this is kind of like a insurance on these guys. You don't want them to leak. Now as a secondary or a primary, if you will, there's already an O-ring installed, so I'm doing this pipe tape on this specifically as a secondary fail-safe, and I'm pretty much doing it anywhere that it threads on or into the system, because like I said, I don't want any leaks. And I'm going to do the same for these guys right here. I don't want any leaks on any of this. I already did it for the cooler on here and here. Now the nice thing is I won't have to do it for my male female end, because this will all be enclosed inside of this. So this will all have oil surrounding it anyway, so I don't really care about that. And then for these female ends or the AN fittings, you don't need to worry about that, because these are actually thread onto here. So this is kind of like a fail-safe if you are a secondary insurance on, you know, making sure your system does not leak. And that's definitely what we do not want to happen on this. So, all right guys, so now from here, I already got the oil filter down. What I'm gonna actually do is pretty much mock up the system onto the car, get it where I want it, where I think it will work best. And currently there is no oil in the engine right now, so do not start the engine. And once I get the system mocked up, I will bring you guys back. But real fast, went to my local Farm and Fleet, and I'm not sponsored or anything, and picked up some brackets that I think would work, that I can make work, I should say. And so I got some bracketry, different lengths, some cell tappers or tech screws, if you will, and then also some regular 1/4 inch by 20 by 1.5 bolts, nuts bolts. And with this, if I use these, I'm gonna use some Loctite on these, that way it doesn't come loose. But these will probably end up working better with mounting the bracket to this. But like I said, guys, I'll bring you back when I get it kind of mocked up, and if it looks good, we'll progress on. All right, guys. Okay, guys, so I got everything installed, oil cooler full of oil. I actually ran the car, made sure it was at the right level. Obviously, it wasn't up on jack stands when I was filling up the oil. You want it flat, that way you can check your oil and make sure it's at the right level. Anyway, this is the setup I have. Like I said, it's gonna be basically custom. It's however you want it. Now, I was kind of forced to put it exactly where it is now, just because originally I had it like I was talking about, but these AN lines were way too close to the ground. So, and plus pretty much nowhere to secure them. Anyway, so this is how I did it. I made my brackets, bent them, and this and that, and everything's tightened down. I can actually feel that the cooler is warm, so that's good. Feel the lines and they're pretty warm too. Same thing down here. Bracket connects to this metal bumper piece there, and then I got my the bottom side of the cooler bolted down. Now these AN lines, what I'm working on now is making sure these are secured somewhere where they can't rub or move around. But I'm actually gonna try to wrap them with something, or basically wherever I zip tie them to, they can't rub. All right guys, so this is the car fully put back together. Got the bumper on, all the push pins installed. I have the AN lines routed exactly where they need to go so they don't make any contact with any steering or suspension components. I have the AN lines, oil lines basically, from the cooler going to the filter, oil filter adapter, secured to the chassis, and then also did not route them in a way to where the oil lines will be anywhere near the ground because of all the roads, bumps, stuff like that. You don't want that. All right guys, so this is the next day. I actually had a autocross event literally the next day, right after I installed this oil cooler. And just, you know, a quick update, kind of end to this video. Oil cooler worked amazing. So if you recall, I was seeing temperatures, engine oil temperatures up to about 270, 280 degrees Fahrenheit out at Blackhawk. Now this is a little different with autocross. It's not as much, you know, high speed stuff, but still racing, still moving around pretty quick. Oil cooler handled just exactly how I wanted it to. Definitely made a huge improvement. I was seeing temperatures maintained around maybe 210 to 215, 210 to 215, which is perfect, exactly where I wanted it. Now from going on further, you know, I guess the real big test would be the next time I go out to Blackhawk Farms. We'll see definitely how well she does, but so far, gotta give a thumbs up to this oil cooler, man. It's made a huge difference. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. There will be more content, obviously, on the Black Beauty here, my Ranger, and then I got some, you know, stuff going on. We're moving my in-laws out. We're buying their house and they're buying a condo, so we're in the process of all this. So chaos, no easier way to say it. So the garage is kind of taken up a little bit, but I got some more projects for my house. You know, a motorized bicycle. I don't know if you guys might be interested in that. If you are, you know, make a comment saying if you guys are kind of interested in it, just to kind of show you guys. There she is right there. She has been sitting for going on 5 years now and hasn't ran since. There were some mechanical issues inside the engine, but we'll get into that if I decide to, you know, if you guys decide you want to see something on that, I'll make a video on it, and, you know, maybe a revival video. And I got a snow thrower I got to revive, get ready for, you know, this winter. It's coming. I mean, we're still obviously a couple months away, but, you know, now's the time. And yeah, just getting the garage set up for some videos and stuff like that. And like I said, more videos. All right, guys, thank you so much. All right, bye.